This is Uranium Spotlight on Tuesday, September 17, 2024. Brought to you by Pure Point Uranium Group, your exploration partner in Canada's Athabasca Basin. Amidst surging uranium demand, Pure Point's continuous 2024 exploration across their vast portfolio, backed by industry giants, underscores their focus on the next major discovery. And now your host, Chris Frostad.
This week on Uranium Spotlight, Russia threatens restrictions on its uranium. Kazakhstan runs into selling issues. The U.S. finds new homes for reactors, and UEC reports positive results in Canada. Last week, uranium prices rose by 25 cents to $80 a pound U3O8, reflecting ongoing market volatility. Despite a quieter spot market following the WNA symposium, multiple trades helped firm up prices. This was partly influenced by comments from Russian President Putin about limiting uranium exports and statements from Kazakhstan's CEO regarding their main export partners. While these developments impacted uranium equities more than prices, market fundamentals remained strong despite short-term fluctuations. Last Monday saw a deal at $79.75 per pound, but prices dipped to $79.50 by the next day. By Wednesday, renewed concerns over Russian and Kazakh exports drove prices back up to $79.75, and on Thursday, a transaction closed at $80 a pound. Friday ended quietly, with the week's total reaching 6 transactions. In the term market, 2 awards were confirmed last week, but no new uranium demand has surfaced. Several utilities are quietly progressing with negotiations, and term deals for delivery between 2024 and 2036 are being evaluated by both U.S. and non-U.S. utilities. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently hinted that export restrictions could be placed on certain commodities, including uranium, nickel, and titanium, when shipping to Western countries. While nickel and titanium are valuable, uranium is the commodity where Russia has significant market control, and any restrictions could seriously impact the West. Russia currently controls about 5% of the global market for uranium concentrate, around 30% for converted uranium, and as much as 50% for enrichment. In 2023, Russia supplied up to a quarter of the U.S.'s enriched uranium and about 12% of its uranium concentrate. The U.S., with the world's largest nuclear fleet of 93 reactors, would be hit hard by any restrictions. These potential export limitations would be in response to Western sanctions, including the recent U.S. law banning Russian uranium imports. However, this law allows for waivers from the Department of Energy, permitting deliveries until January 1, 2028. If Russia goes ahead with restrictions, the U.S. will need to find new uranium suppliers for its reactors. Meanwhile, Russia won't lack customers. Rosatom, Russia's state-owned nuclear company, is currently building nearly 40 reactors worldwide. Fuel supply contracts with Rosatom are usually signed before construction is even complete, locking in long-term demand for Russian uranium. Additionally, China, a key Russian ally, is building almost as many reactors within its borders as Russia is internationally. With China projected to overtake the U.S. in reactor numbers by 2030, demand for uranium is expected to rise, further benefiting Russia. This growing demand among its allies means Russia could still profit by supplying uranium to its friends while limiting exports to the West. On the other hand, the U.S. will likely need to rely more on its allies like Canada and Australia to fill the gap. However, increasing uranium production in these countries would require a significant ramp-up, as neither the U.S. nor many European countries produce much uranium, despite Europe hosting over 100 operating reactors. The challenge is that bringing a uranium mine from development to production typically takes 15 years, and while some Western mines are in development, they're still years away from production. This situation feeds into discussions about a potential split in uranium prices, one for the West and another for nations aligned against it, with Russian export restrictions potentially being a major driver behind that divide. One factor adding to the growing split in uranium supply between East and West is that Kazakhstan, the world's largest producer of uranium concentrate, is finding it harder to sell to Western countries. Kazakhstan, which is primarily owned by the Kazakhstani government, controls 43% of the world's uranium market, similar to the influence OPEC has in the oil industry. The challenge comes from several factors. Most of the usual shipping routes from Kazakhstan to the West pass through Russia, where sanctions could disrupt shipments. To avoid this, Kazakhstan is working on an alternative route through Azerbaijan, but this path is more expensive, according to Kazakhstan's CEO. While they don't want to rely on a single market, he noted that it's currently much easier to sell uranium to China and Russia. Lee Currier, CEO of NextGen Energy, which is developing a major uranium mine in Canada's Athabasca Basin, has weighed in on the potential for this split in uranium supply. He suggested that Kazatomprom could shift more of its production to serve Russia and China, and if that happens, Western utilities will turn to Western suppliers. With 43% of global uranium supply likely to move towards Russia, China, and their allies, and more producers like Niger, which accounts for 5% of the global supply, also aligning more with Russia, the West may continue to struggle with uranium shortages. For several years now, global uranium demand has exceeded supply by as much as 30%, and this gap is expected to grow, though the size of the gap may vary depending on where a country stands in the East-West divide. There are currently 54 nuclear power plants in the U.S., operating 93 reactors. According to the Department of Energy, or the DOE, the U.S. will need to add the equivalent of 200 reactors, similar to an AP1000 reactor recently completed in Georgia, by 2050. About a quarter to half of that capacity could be installed at existing nuclear sites across the country. The DOE surveyed all 54 active nuclear plants along with 11 retired sites and found that 41 of them have room for at least one more reactor. But it's not just current and former nuclear sites that could see new reactors. The DOE also analyzed 145 retired coal plant sites and determined that every one of them could potentially host a nuclear reactor. The advantage here is that these sites already have grid connections in place, significantly speeding up the process of bringing new reactors online. The big question, however, is whether the U.S. can actually get these reactors built. Currently, there are no reactors under construction, and the last two reactors at the Vogtle plant in Georgia went far over budget and took 20 years to complete, much longer than expected. Uranium Energy Corp., or UEC, has reported promising results from its ongoing drill campaign at the Roughrider North discovery in northern Saskatchewan, about 850 meters northeast of the Roughrider deposit. The latest highlight is drill hole RR961, which intersected 11.4% EU308 over 2.4 meters, including a subinterval of 24.9% EU308 over 1 meter. This follows the August results from RR940, which reported 12.7% EU308 over 7.2 meters. The new intersection further extends the high-grade uranium mineralization along a 200-meter strike length, with a high-grade core now spanning approximately 55 meters. The ongoing exploration program will continue with 20 more drill holes, potentially extending into the fall to further define this promising discovery. Roughrider North remains open along strike, offering a potential for additional high-grade uranium deposits in the area. This discovery supports UEC's strategy of exploring and advancing high-grade projects in the Athabasca Basin, a premier uranium mining region. With global uranium demand increasing, these results are seen as significant in both resource expansion and market positioning, reinforcing UEC's standing as a major player in the North American uranium sector. Further results from the remaining drill holes are anticipated in the coming weeks. And that wraps up your Uranium Spotlight coverage for this week. For more news and events from the world of uranium, please tune in next week to Uranium Spotlight.
You've been listening to Uranium Spotlight, your weekly podcast dedicated to delivering the latest news and events shaping the uranium fuel market and its critical role in the global energy landscape. Brought to you by PurePoint Uranium Group. PurePoint actively operates a portfolio of advanced uranium projects in the world's richest uranium district and has established partnerships with some of the largest uranium suppliers worldwide. While our passion for this subject is undeniable, it's essential to clarify that the information presented here is not investment advice. Instead, our goal is to offer an unbiased and comprehensive review of recent events that could impact uranium prices. Join us again next Tuesday for Uranium Spotlight.